All right, this is Roger Pascal with Real Impact Training and Subject2Institute.com. And we are here tonight with a special guest tonight, and this is John Culbertson. And John and I have known each other for several years, and he's kind of my go-to guy. Not kind of, he is my go-to guy on short sales and knowing where the market's at and and knowing where the banks are at. He's very much on top of that. He'll send me various texts of what's going on in the industry and what banks have failed lately or whatever it may be. There's a lot of great areas in here, but he's going to go in what a short sale is and how we work with that. Now, really, and he may go into this in more detail, but short sales were a really big thing starting in 2007, 2008, and went on for about 3 to 4 years. And since that time, it's not been as prevalent. And because when the market gets good and the market's really good, and the properties are selling for above values and stuff, the short sales kind of dwindled down a little bit, but now they're coming back. I'm seeing more and more of them literally every day in conversations with investors, in articles that I'm seeing out there. So let me first introduce John. John, tell us a little bit about you.
Great. Thanks, Roger. My background started in California about over 30 years ago. I got into the business in the early 90s because I got, quote, downsized, lost my job, and there wasn't a lot going on in the employment market. So I got into real estate. And back then, in the early 90s in Southern California, if you wanted to buy a house, it was either going to be a bank REO, which is a repo, or a short sale, and they were brand new back then. So I didn't really want to tote buyers around my car, so I got into the short sale side. It truly was, if you had a listing then, it truly was going to be a short sale. If it was a general market listing, it was going to be overpriced, would sell. So from there, I progressed and eventually became a broker, real estate and mortgage broker in California. I moved my family in 2005 back to Texas, and I was a builder here until the crash in 2008. And then sifting through the rubble, excuse me, I got back into short sales because guess what? They were all over the place. And it was foreclosure city. The foreclosures were super high back then. I ran my short sale loan mod business with my attorney from about 2010 to when I got back into it full time, 2009-10, and ran it to about 2018-19 because I had gone into Houston after about 2016 because they got hit by Hurricane Harvey and a mini oil bust. So I was still busy, but I was doing all my deals in Houston because DFW had already pretty much recovered. So fast forward to now, yes, foreclosures have increased. DFW foreclosures went up 188 units this month over last, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is because we still got low numbers. There's about around 700 last month and 888 this month. So it was a pretty good size jump. So we're going to start seeing those again. I have a team. I have an attorney, excellent real estate attorney I've been working with since 2010, and we're good friends. And I have a processor and I have a bilingual assistant that works with me. So that's my story.
Good deal. So kind of explain to us what a short sale is.
A short sale is where a property, a home, is over encumbered with debt. They can be either it can be a result of the market shifting like it is now and prices going down, excuse me, and leaving a property kind of high and dry with the debt being higher, or it could be it could be the homeowner leveraging themselves out of their house by having a second, having a pool loan, having solar panel loans, HOA liens, they can stack up. And that's what I'm seeing those pretty much right now. They got multiple liens on them from that kind of consumption is what's been going on. You couple that with 8%, de facto 8% interest rates and declining prices, it's a kind of a wicked mix. So that's what a short sale is. They're a property that you owe more than the value of the property. You have too much.
Let me ask you this. Is a short sale the same thing as a foreclosure?
No. A short sale is pre-foreclosure. In order to qualify for a short sale, you have to be 90 days behind on your mortgage payment. So it is before foreclosure is when the bank has already foreclosed and takes the property back. Short sale is pre-foreclosure. That's when we have time to get in, do our thing, negotiate with the bank, put together a package and negotiate with the bank and get an approval letter, necessitate a sale.
Can anybody do a short sale?
You need to go through, if it's a federally backed loan, which virtually all of them are, you've got to channel it through a real estate broker, realtor, lawyers, and investors can do them, but they got to go through their realtor. And the reason is you got to have a listing agreement, purchase agreement. And it's got to be a standard thing. You got to have other documentation, but that's pretty much how it's channeled into the loss mitigation department of the bank, of the lender.
Okay. So if somebody is wanting to do a short sale and they run into a client or a seller and the seller's like, well, I'm just going to let the bank have it. How would that discussion go? How would you do that discussion with the seller?
I will tell them that the damage done to their credit from a foreclosure is much greater and it lasts a lot longer. If you make the decision to do a short sale and we get an approval from a lender and get the deal closed, it will show up on your credit report as satisfied or settled versus a foreclosure. And that can last 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard some various horror stories on that. We may get into it later on this, but so from the time that somebody that the homeowner decides to contact the bank, how long does it take for a short sale to go through?
Okay, it varies question. It varies in what's going on with the market. Really, it's predicated on the load that the loss mitigation department at the bank, at the lender, what they have, what their workload is. Right now, you're probably looking at 90, 120 days. If it's a simple one lien short sale, if there's multiple liens, it gets much harder, takes longer, and your chance of success drops a lot. Right now, I'd say 3 to 4 months, let's say safely 3 to 6 months. Back in the olden days, post 2008, it could take up to 2 years. I think you've had that experience.
I have.
Yeah.
So, and it can be frustrating, but so the seller definitely has to be on board and supplying you documents, correct?
Yeah. The number one reason why short sales fail is because the seller gives up or does not listen to your instruction and won't cooperate. That is the number one reason.
So the banks are asking for lots of documents from the seller, correct?
Yes, they are. Short sale is the most difficult residential real estate transaction to do. Most practitioners in this business, investors or realtors, don't want to do it. They want to touch them. What you're really doing with a short sale, just kind of cut to the chase, is you're doing a loan in reverse. You're getting the same documentation with a few other things added that you're going to give to the lender that you did to get into the loan. You're giving them same kind of information to get out of the loan. Excuse me. You're going to be supplying tax returns, bank statements, pay stubs, financial statement, and they're going to run a credit report. One big difference is you're going to have to write a hardship letter, and you have to have a hardship in order for this to go. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts. That's kind of an overview of what you need. Basically, you're just doing a loan in reverse.
Gotcha. Okay, so who actually would benefit from a short sale?
Both sides. The seller mitigates the damage to their credit. Instead of struggling with seven years of bad luck, basically your bad credit, can you get it scraped off after 3 or 4 years? Probably, a good credit repair guy. But why go through that? Okay. A short sale in current market conditions right now, if you do a short sale and you correct all your credit problems and your financial situation improves, you can go back out and get a mortgage in 2 years after the short sale. When it was hot and heavy, there's lots of foreclosures and tight, underwriting was tight, it was 3 years. So 2 to 3 years versus 7 years. And here's a big thing. This is a psychological thing. It's an emotional thing. The transaction is treated just like a normal transaction. You have a buyer, you have a seller. The only difference is we are asking approval from the lender to discount the amount owed in order to close and pay the closing costs and commissions. Okay, so to the outside world, it doesn't look like a foreclosure. It just looks like a normal transaction. The buyers and sellers close, the seller packs and moves out, the buyer's family unloads and moves in. So there's a big dignity aspect to this deal. Big appeal. To the buyer, they get a discount. They get a property that is not completely beat up like most foreclosures or pre-foreclosures. They're getting it. It depends on what they're after. They can get a beat up house that at an even deeper discount, but they can also move into a very habitable property for 15, 20% below market. So for the buyer, it's a great deal. Those are the homes that I bought and lived in were short sales, personally.
Gotcha. Okay, so if somebody makes an offer and they make it at 10% of the value of the house, that probably won't go through, right?
You mean like if it's worth $100,000 and the offer's $10,000?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably not.
Okay, so so when my experience is people that aren't doing short sales, they have a kind of a misnomer on them sometimes, and they'll do that. I've seen people do that with HUD owned properties that are going through the HUD foreclosure process. Well, they'll just offer crazy low dollars on that. So, so the incentive to the bank, what is the incentive to the bank of doing a short sale versus a foreclosure?
Historically, they lose less money. Historically, they save about 17% versus going through the entire foreclosure process and rehab, clean it up, maintenance, all that kind of stuff, and get it sold. That's an average. It's probably, depending on the market, it could be higher, it could be lower, but it's about 17% savings for the lender. They don't do it out of the goodness of their heart. They don't have a heart. These are lenders. These are banks. The difference, I'm not crazy about REOs. I've done a lot of them. I did a bulk sale of a dozen REOs back in California. So I like short sales because you have more control over the process, a lot more as a practitioner. Gotcha.
So if somebody was going to do a short sale, pardon me, and we're in it as an investor, and we get our offer accepted, is it a standard like a 30, 45 day close, or so it's just like a standard deal?
Yes.
Okay.
You'll get an approval letter that has price, terms, and conditions on it. the title company can close at, price, all that good stuff, time, close in 30 days, whatever. You have a close date.
Right. Right. So if we get a property under contract as a short sale as an investor, and the bank accepts it and the sellers move out, and then we find that the sellers really didn't disclose all the damage, can we go back to the bank and renegotiate based upon condition of the property?
You don't really need to do that, because you can go in and as the buyer, you can do all inspections just like a normal sale. You're not an REO like a HUD or a VA repo. You can't do that. You're taking it totally as is. They don't even turn the utilities on. But you can do complete, thorough inspections as part of the closing, as part of the transaction process. After we get the, I like to wait till after we get the approval, so the buyer doesn't, put out a bunch of money and then not have it work, not get an approval. So you're going to know up front the condition of the property.
Okay. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, the buyer can pull out if there's something. If you go back in and after the fact, you find a bunch of damage. Of course, also on these approval letters, it's as is. So, I don't think that's going to be very successful. And I've not done that personally.
Gotcha. Is there any regulations out there? Can a seller buy their own house back from the bank?
Nope. No, that's a big no-no. That's actually a felony. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So wow. Yeah. And where do you think that our market is going? You mentioned that we had I think you said it was a 17% increase in DFW. Where do you think we'll be at as we go along with this crazy economy that we have?
Well, Roger, you've known me a long time, and I constantly ruminate on this stuff. Okay. So this one will be very different than previous, and it'll be much bigger. One of the drivers that we have never had before is hedge fund houses. They're the 800-pound gorilla in the market. What's happening now, what always happens, the first to cause a market decline in pricing, et cetera, to change the pricing structure in the market are the builders, and they're doing that right now. Excuse me, they're cutting their prices, and they're doing rate buy downs. Some of these builders are offering a 2-1 buy down rate starting at 2.99, get them to squeeze them into the house. So they move in a brand new house. They got a very low rate, and that's gutting the resale market. They always do this. This is I've been through 4 full cycles in 2 states. They always do this. So, and then the next tranche of cost or price cutting, price changing, price declining factors will be the REOs. That was then. Now we're facing massive hedge funds. They're going to unload their houses. They have no emotions, nothing. They're going to unload that house and go buy T-bills or Bitcoin. Then we're going to have, this is my theory. I don't have a PhD, but this is John's theory. Then we're going to have the foreclosure wave, or it could be coincidental. They could go together.
Wow. Yeah, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, I am seeing more and more distressed properties coming across every single day. I was on a call last night, and 2 investors are picking up a property. A young man bought the property. It's very, he's only had it literally a year or 2, and he got overextended. Mm-hmm. And then as insurance rates rise, as property taxes rise, it pushes them out of that loan. When people buy a house, for the most part, they're buying it at the top of their spending limit.
Yep.
If somebody's qualified for $300,000, most buyers out there aren't looking for $200,000 homes.
Yes,
they're looking at $300,000 homes
or $350
or $3. Absolutely. So And there's a in every increment of the price range, there's a substantial difference in the style and the type of house that you're looking at.
Yep.
So a $250,000 house isn't even near the same type of house as a $300,000 house. So we get it what they're looking for, but we're seeing more and more people that are in really bad situations.
Yes.
I know the government's out there and saying, "Oh, we don't have inflation and it doesn't cost you anymore to buy." But you go to McDonald's and it's $11 for a quote value meal now, and 3 years ago it wasn't that case.
When I had to get my battery changed out of my car's key fob, and I went into like Bulbs and More, or one of those places, batteries and bulbs, what are those things are called? I paid $21.
Wow.
Those little circular batteries.
Wow.
It was like, last time I did it was probably half that. So we've got double-digit inflation,
absolutely.
de facto, real world.
Absolutely.
And it's squeezing people. I mean, it's just the way it is. And the frenzy of the buying, the stimulus money, the frenzy of buying with the COVID thing and recovery and whatever is now coming home to roost, because now we're sitting at basically 8% for the average loan now, and sky high prices. So it's a formula it's a very explosive formula. Add that the massive hedge fund iceberg dead ahead, and we're going to be living in foreclosure world for years, and it's just it's barely started, barely.
Wow. So if we go and talk to a client, a seller, a homeowner, and they're like, "Well, I don't know if I want to do all the work with a short sale. I think I'll let the bank have the property." Now, how does that affect that seller from then on? I mean, we know it's going to affect their credit, but if they're already in a short sale, their credit's already been affected a little bit. So what's the difference in the short sale and the foreclosure as far as the seller goes?
I go at it two ways. Number one, I tell them, look, I'm going to get you more time. It's going to take time to get this thing done. You're going to get X amount of months, more than likely. And we're going to mitigate the damage to your credit. I can't help it if their car payment's behind. That's their issue. But I also explain to them, the number one, the worst damage you can do to your credit report is a mortgage foreclosure. It's a foreclosure. It's even lose more points in a bankruptcy. So, if you're eyeing the future, you want to get back if you feel you can get back on your feet in a couple years instead of 7, and you need a little more time, and you want to leave with your head held up high rather than a midnight move out, this is a good option for you. By the way, you cannot give the short sale seller any financial incentive. That's a federal offense.
Even an option fee?
That goes through the title company, and I don't believe they even get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a guy that came to me back in the subprime days, and I was working short sales, and he was in the military, and he told me, he said, "Well, I don't know if I want to do this or if I just want to let the bank have it." And I said, "Before you make that decision, just walk away from this. Maybe you need to talk to your commanding officer."
Oh yeah,
and affect your military career. And the officer said, if you go, his commanding officer said, if he went into foreclosure and he lost that house in foreclosure, that he could be discharged from the military and lose his career. He was a career military guy, or what happened is we did a short sale on it. They kept him in the military, but he was not able to change ranks or pay rate for 3 years.
How many years?
3.
Oh,
that's what his commanding officer came back. I don't know if that happens on all of them, but I guess they're concerned that he's, he could sell weapons, or he could sell information or whatever, to the bad parties out there because he's in a financial distress situation.
It's a security clearance issue. Everything. I was an Army officer at one point, and that was a long time ago, and there was no such thing as a short sale. And those things just didn't affect you like that back then. This is a different world we're in. We're in a cyber world. So I've heard that too. I heard it can affect your government or military career, especially law enforcement.
Right. I think about anything where they may be handling money, and
or secrets.
Or secrets. Absolutely. So, I've actually heard that it could be a situation in certain retail environments or accounting situations when they're handling money, they may not be employed at their employer in a job handling money. If they're at Walmart and Walmart has that situation and they get fired, and that's one of the two only cashiers we have at Walmart, we're all upset because now we can't get out of Walmart because they only have now one cashier. So, and the investors that I work with and in my personal business, I think everybody needs to be knowledgeable about short sales. They need to understand how that works because we are going out there, we're looking for the deals. And unfortunately for some people out there, some homeowners, the deal is because they are distressed. They don't have money to fix up their property. They don't have money to make their payments. But you said something a while ago that just really triggered a lot. And part of the sales atmosphere of this is now you're able to stay in your house a little longer.
Yes.
But we don't have the magic ball. We don't know, we don't know how long that's going to be. My experience is months, if not years.
Well, right now, I say 3 to 6.
3 to 6 months.
6 months. Back in the olden days, I said you could be in here at least another year.
Yeah.
6 to 12. Back then, I said 6 to 12 months.
Wow. I had a friend that worked for Citibank Mortgage back in the subprime days, and he was known as the old man on the floor. He was like 25, but he'd been there over a year. Nobody else had been there over a year. And because it's so much pressure on these processors to deal with it, he told me that he had 40,000 files assigned to him. And now there's no way he could look at 40,000 files, and not all of them were in distress. Those were just files that were assigned to him. If the payments became late, he would get a report, and that he would be, get a report on the property assigned to him.
Yes.
And he said that there was, the squeaky wheel got the grease, and there was no way he could do his job, and that's why they had so much turnover. And I bet we're going to be looking at that again.
Yes. There's a lot to be said. Yeah, you got to constantly, weekly, stay on top of that loss mitigation specialist. Hey, what's going on? When's the appraiser going to come out? That kind of stuff. Absolutely.
So you mentioned that. Do you want to be involved when the appraiser's coming? Do you want to, as an investor?
I do.
Do you want to be involved with that?
I go out there every time.
Okay.
I go out there every time, and I bring my own comps. They got their comps, but they'll ask you, well, what do you think it's going to cost to rehab this thing? Oh, at least $120,000, man.
There you go.
Probably needs 30.
Right.
So you want to get out there, and if you can influence, because it's the valuation of the property that it's going to tell you how good a deal you're going to get. So,
okay. Okay. So as an investor, you want to have a realtor that has two brain cells to rub together, and that is open to saying, okay, if they haven't done a short sale, they're either going to get a lot of experience, or you're going to have a challenging time working that short sale.
Yeah, avoid that one. I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere. I did, but I'm very seasoned in this. I have a good realtor I work with that I've trained the way I want things done. So that's what I do. If they have a short sale, they can contact me. We can talk about it.
I had a property that I had listed I work with distressed properties, as many may know or may not know. I am also a realtor, but I had it listed, and working with the bank. First of all, it took us forever to find the servicing because this guy didn't keep records, and he had filed bankruptcy like 3 times over the 6 years, and never followed through with the bankruptcy, but it would pause the foreclosure. And we finally found the servicing company. The servicing company kind of got tired of dealing with me because I'm asking a lot of questions, pretty much almost a daily basis of trying to get things done because they weren't working. They weren't doing the things that needed to be done. Finally, they gave me the hedge fund manager's phone number. I've never had anything like that in my life. I've never had any connection whatsoever to the lender. And, and a lot of people think, oh, it's Chase Bank that's the lender. It probably isn't Chase Bank as the lender.
You got to the investor.
Yes, I talked to the
investor. Note. That's
yeah,
rare.
On the note. And he's like, we are done. I am done working with this guy. We will not even do a short sale. We're just done. If you've got a buyer, they can close before the first Tuesday of the month, which is in Texas when properties are the foreclosure date at the courthouse. He says, then we'll work with you, but we're not going to extend it. We're not going to extend it one more month on this process because this seller, we feel he's just taking advantage of us. And we have our opportunity right now to go ahead and foreclose and take our knocks. And we feel that we're going to get our money at the foreclosure auction because he had a ton of equity in that property, which he did, but they refused to even work with me on that. And it was quite interesting going through that process. It was a great learning experience for me. It was disappointing we weren't able to salvage the deal. We had 2 buyers, cash buyers, ready to buy the property, and we had one under contract. We had a backup, and so the one we had under contract actually went to the courthouse and bought the property off the courthouse. And
so why didn't the seller take one of these cash offers if there's a ton of equity in the house and just walk away with something?
Well, we couldn't get it closed because there was an IRS lien.
Oh.
And we, even though the title company petitioned to the IRS to, it was only a $10,000 IRS lien.
How much?
$10,000. It wasn't much. And but the title company wouldn't close it. The seller had the cash ready to close, and he actually would have saved money. He actually would have, because there was a bidding war at the courthouse. He wound up paying more than what the contract was, and but it wasn't much more. But there were no realtor fees or anything on that basis. For the standard sale, there was a realtor fee, but for the courthouse, there wasn't. But he still wound up paying a little bit more. But once again, the title company, we tried every way in the world to get that title company to close. I talked to you about it, and we talked about doing a temporary restraining order. Yeah, TRO on it. Yep. And there wasn't a judge in the county that would give, or an attorney that would give the judge a TRO, because this guy worked the system. So how does the TRO work? Speaking of that, how does the TRO, temporary restraining order, how does that work?
How did he, had he already used the TRO?
Yeah, he used it like 3 times in the bankruptcy, and everybody was done. He had a reputation. Good guy, nice guy. I mean, he wasn't evil guy or anything. He's trying
to stay in his house.
He was trying to say he had health issues. He was in a wheelchair. He got severely injured. He was in the building industry, and he had a fall. And he wasn't paralyzed, but he just had couldn't move his lower body, essentially. Okay. And so it was a big property. It was a lot of acreage, and it was a lot of dwellings on the acreage. He had three houses, 2 of them being duplexes on the property for rentals. And it was sad because he actually only had like $30,000 that he owed 6 years ago, and then he never made a payment, and it built up to over $200,000.
Oh,
so a really bad deal.
What was the rate on that loan?
I don't know, but it was all the all the late charges and all the attorney's fees, because they added attorney's fees every time he filed bankruptcy. And it was a crazy deal. And I didn't really know that until after I started working with the guy. It came from a realtor that I do a lot of business with, and she's like, "I'm way over my head on this. I'm drowning. Can you take this over?" And I went out, talked to the guy, took it over. Once again, after we got it marketed, we found out more things about it. And and really, when I got and talked to the investor, which is the money guy, the guy who had the loan, I found out much more. And of course, that's when I called you and said, "Give me some advice here, John. I've not run into this before, where I'm actually talking to the investor." And then, we talked about the number of times he filed bankruptcy, but he never went through with the bankruptcy. He'd always just get it where they couldn't foreclose on him.
Yeah, he'd do an emergency Chapter 13. We call it emergency 13, just to stop it. Yeah, I mean that is I'll touch on that now. When I was trained over 20 years ago by a California real estate attorney on how to do an emergency 13, go down, get handhold the guy. You got to be careful about that now. It's a different time. And get them to do a Chapter 13 and just interrupts the sale, especially if you're a couple days from the trustee's sale. There's really not enough time. There's not enough time to get a lawyer and go get a TRO. It's just not enough. Not even my guy can. He will respond to me like that, but that's just not enough time. So your only option is to go do emergency 13. He has to physically go down to the courthouse, do a bankruptcy Chapter 13 pro se. It's a very simple process, pays the fee, and it automatically stays the sale. The other method is to get a TRO, and that is done by hiring a lawyer, having the lawyer write up a petition, this lawsuit against a lender, Chase, B of A, whatever, go in front of a judge, get a hearing, and ask the judge for a temporary restraining order. They were carte blanche approving TROs through most of this last cycle that I was in. The first time I have ever seen a judge in at least 10 years deny a TRO was about 2 months ago, and it was up in Denton County. The guy had bought hands down the best or I'd say the most heartbreaking hardship that I've seen in a long time. His wife had cancer. When I started the process, she was still alive, and she died. Their finances were gutted because of all the illness, spending habits on her side. She kind of lost it when she was sick, and they were in a bad spot. And we're still fighting that battle right now. It hasn't gone away. We're still, we got a reprieve. I won't get into all that. That was the first time in at least a decade, Roger, that I've seen a judge turn down a TRO, and it was probably the most justified TRO suit I've ever seen. Wow. And so we're in a weird time right now. Things are just wonky. Okay. What I believe is when we get fully into a foreclosure market, these judges are going to go, "Oh, we got to do this again." They really did. The judges did sympathize with the homeowners. They were seeing the headlines of people losing their jobs. They knew people who had lost their jobs and were losing their houses. So the sympathy that was there. When times are good, they don't have as much sympathy. It's like, well, why? Times are good. You can get a job. You can do whatever. You can find the money. But that's not true, even in a good market, in a good economy. Bad things happen to good people. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So how, in your experience, how is the best way to talk to a seller and convince them, even though they're not going to get any money out of the sale, because that's what a short sale does. They get no money. Mm-hmm. But what is the incentive for them to produce the documents, to allow the house to be shown in some cases, if we're not an investor involved, if it doesn't already have a buyer involved, but how is the best way to talk to that seller and say, we're coming in here to help you, and once again we're going to tell them the difference between a foreclosure and a short sale. But in your experience, how is the best way to convince that seller to work with us as investors to do a short sale?
I'm going to flip that around. You're interviewing the seller. I'm going to have to expend my time, energy, and possibly money, because I have people working for me, on your short sale, bailing you out. Okay. So I'm interviewing them. Okay. Things get turned around in a market, in a situation like this. You know, in this hot market we've had, you got a gazillion investors going up and pitching sellers, hey, you know, I can do this, this, and that. And realtors, same thing, right? This is a reverse situation. So I'm interviewing for motivation. Are they going to cooperate? Am I going to be able to get this thing to the finish line? Are they going to bail on me before it's over? All that work, time, money, gone. So I screen them. That's the best answer I can give you.
Okay. Do you have to sometimes remind them that you screened them and they said they were 100% on board? And
yes, I ask them things like, would you mind if I made a lot, if I bought this property for cheap, worked hard for however long and got it and made a bunch of money. Do you have a problem with that? If they say, yeah, I do, it's my house, then I don't want them. I said, we're working together to get you out of this situation. So I need to make sure you're going to cooperate and be at the finish line with me.
Wow. There you go. Well, John, thank you so much for being on this call tonight. You do live presentations. You're doing one next week out in the Tyler area, to answer questions directly. So that's next Tuesday night at 6:30 in Tyler at Brisket Love. You can look on our website for that information. Or you can go to meetup.com and type in Impact Lindale or Impact Tyler. Either one of those gets you to that area. But at 6:30 next Tuesday night, May the 5th, and May. How about that? How about December the 5th? So we look forward to seeing you there. If anybody is on this call and they want to see more information with John and have other questions with him and how he can support you in working with a short sale, he has a couple of products for that or programs for that his information is second to none. I've never met anybody in this industry, and I've been in this industry for the better part of 20 years, if not more, and I have never met anybody more knowledgeable on short sales and what's happening in the market and future looking than John here. So thank you so much, John, for being on this call. We look forward to working with you. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we can get you in contact with John. We can work to get you those answers. So
thank you, Roger. I appreciate your support.
Absolutely. And thank everybody for being on this call tonight. So we look forward to you, and y'all have a great week and good luck in your investing. So thank you, John.
Thank you.